And a very, very good evening to you all, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Fan Forum. I'm your host, Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this evening. We have quite a big show to get through tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank the Hopper Bros Barbecue for all your tips and tricks. Make sure, and everything barbecue, make sure you give them a follow on Instagram, and also Dragon Pressure Washing have come on board as well. So if you want your house pressure washed to the finest, the absolute finest and highest quality, get in touch with us here at the channel and we will put you on to Daniel and you'll get 10% off your first quote. If you're a Carlton supporter and you want your house pressure washed, you will get your house pressure washed, but there may be some damages within the premises somewhere. But let's just get straight to it. We have a huge show to get through. Anybody can jump on board. You can have your say. There's heaps of people here. The usual suspects are already in. Bosses in the house evening. We've also got Mellows in. We've got Stephanus. I mean, these guys just don't miss a beat on any of the content creator shows. Chris is in. We've also got Ben Zero here. Hey, Pies Legends, big week. That's an understatement. And yeah, we're just going to cut straight to it. So tonight we're going to get some people on. The link is in the chat. I've already got a couple of people waiting, ready to go, which I'm looking forward to, which will be fantastic. Just want to say a massive thanks to everybody who's watched the last couple of videos that I put on. Not the last one, but the one before. It's at almost 5,000 hits. So that's been absolutely massive for my content anyway. So I do appreciate all that. We do have a video coming tomorrow before I jump to getting into tonight's live. Got a video coming tomorrow. It's my predicted 23 against Brisbane in the prelim final. It's an interesting video. I did it early. I'm going to post it tomorrow. So there may be some changes to the lineup or whatever, but it is what I believe will be our starting 23, including a very famous sub, but we'll leave that for tomorrow. But first of all, let's get straight to it. So there was a huge game between Brisbane and Gold Coast the other day, and I'm not going to lie, the first 10 minutes of the first quarter, I was thinking to myself, geez, I'd love to face Brisbane next week because Gold Coast were all over them. They were cutting the ball through the middle. Anderson was on fire. Miller looked great. And then once that the momentum sort of shifted halfway through the first quarter, and when it became that arm wrestle, as soon as Brisbane then ended up getting on top, they were off with the fairies. They just went to town on Gold Coast. And look, to be honest with you, I've got no hesitations about playing either one of them. I think if we were to play against Gold Coast, we'd have a much easier game next week. But with that being said, the team that is playing for Brisbane this week compared to the team that beat us, a month or so ago, it is completely different. The players that we've got in, again, completely different. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they match up. But let's just not worry about that because we're going to get straight into the Pies and Brisbane game. But before we do, I've got my first guest ready to go. He's messaged me the other day and said I'm coming on. So he's coming on. Can you just give it up for Matty Moore?
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very, very well. Massive game. Looking forward to getting back to Melbourne this week. So, yeah.
When do you fly in?
Friday, I'm back. So, straight to the MCG on Friday night. And then I'll sit there and I'll observe what's about to unfold on Friday night. And then, get ready. It's a massive day on Saturday for you and for I assume. So, hopefully I'll catch up with you sometime throughout the day. But, yeah, really looking forward to it. Was at the Gabba on Saturday night. And, love to obviously reflect on that game and what we can expect and how we can beat the Lions.
So I said just before you came on, the team that played, the team that played for us against Brisbane the other day, compared to the team that we're going to have out this week, it's very different. Do you feel as if we had Jordan De Goey obviously be a sub that game? He's a completely different player to what he is then. He's so match fit and he's ready to go. I'm looking at him as to be the X factor in this game. I've also just got this feeling, and excuse me, I've put in my team, and I'll give people a bit of a sneak peek now anyway, but I've put Dan Houston on the wing for this game against Brisbane. I just think he offers so much to be a little bit more forward of the ball, and he can be that little bit of an X factor. Do you think it's time now, like, to see that push from him and also from Geordie De Goey, especially in this big game?
Well, I've actually predicted today that Geordie will get best on ground. Just listening to his press conference today, he's got to repay the faith to the club, which obviously he has done. He was absolutely amazing against Adelaide. And we saw what he did in the 2023 final series. He literally just tore the arse out of it. So I'm expecting him to have a massive game. With Dan, obviously, I'm very close with Dan. We sponsor him up here in Queensland. You're right. That half-back role that he's obviously played at Port Adelaide, he hasn't quite found his niche with us this year. I've got no doubt that he'll do a Lockie Shields. Lockie Shields got so much shit last year, obviously, over what he went for. But I've got Dan to – I think you're right, mate. Play that wing. We know he's got that raking right boot that can go really deep too, and he can obviously bomb from outside 50. So he showed a lot of promise, obviously, in a hostile environment last week against Adelaide. And mate, I really can't wait for these two boys to get in. I'd be interested to see or hear your thoughts about Bobby Hill. There's been a lot of talk about that today down in Melbourne. Not quite sure. I don't think he'll get in the 22. I wouldn't be surprised he starts at the sub, but if he's not match fit, obviously he kicked 4 goals in that practice game at the VFL game at Geelong the other week. But I'd be very, very interested to see what Fly and the coaching staff do with Bobby come Saturday at 5:15.
Well, I said in the sharing stand with Down and Hatters last week that, and this was obviously the Tuesday after that Saturday scratchy, that, players like McStay, players like Bobby Hill, Will Hoskin-Elliott, Tom Mitchell, even Ed Allen, you can throw in that mix as well. They had a fairly good game. Like Bobby and McStay obviously were the two best in that game. Ash Johnson also played really well too. So if you've got players that, I know Ash Johnson won't get into the side, but if you've got a whole squad of players that are knocking down the door and that are desperate to play, I mean, this time of year, you can't have anything less than that. It's going to be interesting to see who he does pick. I've got Bobby in the side as a sub this week, and if you look at the training blocks and stuff that he's done, and I know everyone talks, training blocks, this is that, but Fly's mantra of you could be fit to play, but you got to be fit to perform. He doesn't want players in there just to make up the numbers. So it's going to be interesting. I think the biggest one isn't the Bobby Hill situation. I think the biggest one's the Jeremy Howe situation if he's able to play, because I went to training last week and it was one of their main training sessions and I was there for 95% of it. And they had him just running up and down one side of the ground, nonstop. And he was cooked by the end of it. But he looked like he was gliding through the air when he was running, and he was smiling. He was talking to people, us on the sideline as well. If he is able to play, that gives our backline a complete new dimension in what we've had over the last few weeks. The question is, though, going back to Fly's mantra, are you fit to play or are you fit to perform? I think Bobby Hill's fit to perform. I think he's ready to go. And I think it's not so much the fitness. I think it's more the mental side of things. If he's physically ready, okay. Is he mentally there? And all the training sessions that I've seen, he's looked pretty happy. He's looked pretty happy to be around the club. So I think that's a real positive. What are your thoughts on the ins and outs this week? Do you have any sort of, machinations in your head or anything, any magnets moving on what you think will happen?
I would be amazed at how he doesn't play. From what I've seen, what I've heard from inside and outside the club, you were talking about obviously training last week. There was video footage of him taking hangers up rough out at training on the bags there. So he's obviously got the leap into him. I would be absolutely amazed if he doesn't play. We've seen, and we spoke about it a couple of weeks, when he got injured against Melbourne, that just threw out the dynamics of the back line so badly, as it did against Hawthorn. Our back line against Adelaide, our back six were just insane. Darcy Moore just intercepted everything that came near him. Howie obviously is a massive key down back, as is our mate Mason Cox up forward, and we'll talk about Cox as well. But Bobby Hill, if he's right to go and the morale's there, I'm a bit on the fence with him. I'm not quite sure. I don't want to set the forward line because obviously Jamie Elliott's been in phenomenal form this year and has stood up when he hasn't been there. But obviously, like I said, Mason Cox just brings that ball to ground. He did a fantastic job against Adelaide. He copped so much shit on social media just for having 8 or 9%. But you and I agree, the structure that he gives, which be able to get down back to obviously play that loose man across half back is phenomenal. Where we really need to counteract Brisbane is obviously on the outside. So we are a really good inside ball at the contest. If Brisbane get wide and get us going, that run game will obviously get them going. But where I've seen Brisbane really fall over it, and a couple of players that I know quite well up here have said the same thing, they just bomb it long inside 50 and kick and hope for Morris or one of their key forwards down there. They can bring that all they like on Saturday night, Andreas. We will literally rip the absolute arse out of them if they do that. And I'm hoping they just bomb that fucking ball as long as they can inside 50, and we'll just pick it off all night long. The other thing, too, that you've got to keep in mind with Brisbane, and it's been well documented over the last couple of years, if you add that, they do not like pressure. They are not, they do not react well to pressure. If you keep them to under 100 marks, that's obviously a key factor of them. That's one of their KPIs. They get to 100 marks and they don't lose too many games. So that pressure needs to be up. Those 100 marks just come from tipping around, uncontested possession, uncontested marks. That's where our pressure game on it was back against Adelaide. We bring that pressure and heat to Brisbane, which I think we will Saturday night. Mate, I reckon we're in for a comfortable win here for sure.
Yeah, look, I mean, hearing you say that is pretty much exactly along the lines of what's going through my mind. I feel as if, though, and especially watching parts of the game against Gold Coast, and even parts of the game against Geelong, when Brisbane had that just a little bit of momentum coming forward, it looked a bit chaotic when they were bringing it up forward, and then they'd go the long kick in. I feel as if they're still playing a style, and this is obviously just from observation, like from a non-Brisbane supporter watching neutral games of football, but it feels like they're still playing a style of football that relies on someone up forward like a Joe Danaher. Now, I'm going to give respect to Morris, and because he's obviously done quite well so far this season, and his last game against us, I mean, he single-handedly won us won then the game against us. But I still feel like they're playing that long bomb ball, looking for someone like a Danaher up forward, and it hasn't worked every single week for him. It worked a little bit more when Hipwood was obviously up there, but he's obviously out now as well. Now, the biggest thing too is I wanted to ask you, before I get to the Lockie Neal situation, you obviously went to the game for the Brisbane Gold Coast game. Was there? I find Brisbane really love to hit the corridor on the rebound. They play the wings sort of like we do, but then they just sort of do those hack kicking forwards. I noticed when the game was in a little bit of an arm wrestle before they broke Gold Coast open, they were trying to hit him across the corridor. Did you see that?
Yeah, I've seen that quite a bit from Brisbane this year. They are a really good counter-attacking side from D50 through that corridor. Where they do fall down, they panic. And it's almost like they try and get inside 50. They're attacking 50 too quick. And that's that bomb ball that we were talking about. So I was said to Dunks and Jared Berry after the Hawthorn game. That game, I went to that game. That was by far in recent history the best game as a neutral I've been to. Just the speed that both sides had, the transition that both sides had from D50 to inside 50. The difference between Hawthorn and Brisbane, and this will be interesting to see if we come up against them in a grand final. Hawthorn are the best side at lowering the odds inside 50. Instead of going long, they just want to see what's 30, 40 metres out. That's the massive difference between Hawthorn and Brisbane. So, like I said, mate, really excited for this one Saturday night. I can't wait to get down there.
Did you get slapped with high airfare costs and stuff like that to come back down to Melbourne?
No, I haven't, mate. I literally booked them a couple of weeks ago, so I've got to return. I've got to set a one-way flight down there for just over $200. So I would have loved to have seen what they were on Saturday night. We go back to the 2023 prelim, and they were $400 return at the start of that game, Brisbane Carlton, and then they were $2,200 return after the final siren. So. I'm expecting a massive crowd there. They're talking 95,000 each of two Friday and Saturday, so that'll be 190,000 at the G in 24 hours, which is just going to be absolutely phenomenal. And mate, we all know Melbourne comes alive this time of year, and regardless of who's in that grand final next weekend, it's going to be a fantastic week.
Well, I've just read some stuff on the internet that's been posted, and apparently there could be the day of the grand final, regardless of who's playing. Melbourne Storm might be playing in their prelim on the same night. So
yeah, I think that'd be silly to do that. Play it on the public Friday.
I think play it on the Friday because the city will already be buzzing a grand final parade and stuff like that too. But there's talks that it could be on grand final day, which I think is obscene. But especially being so close down the road. Now, Lachie Neale. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. You obviously do watch a fair bit of the footy up in Queensland, obviously being based up there. But when he played against us, especially in, and I'm not going to touch on the Easter Thursday game just yet, but the game that we played against them a few weeks ago, I feel as if we always match up really well against Lachie Neale. I feel as if the one-on-ones are really, really close. We have Tom Mitchell, for example, that goes in when we play against Brisbane, and he does a half-decent job on Lachie Neale. Tom Mitchell's not playing, obviously. With Lachie Neale out, who do you think's that next one in the midfield that's going to be able to get the ball and feed it out like he does and, just get that little bit of that outside run for him? Who's that player for Brisbane you think that will take that role?
Oh, good question, mate. I mean, inside's a good question. Outside's Will Ashcroft. He was phenomenal Saturday night. I'm amazed at a kid at 21 years of age. Obviously, we've got Nick, but just Lachie Neale's balance. Will Ashcroft's balance on both left and right is just absolutely phenomenal. Dunks obviously will get a job in the midfield, and he'll go to probably Nick. And he's started to work out how to play Nick. But yeah, he's one of those players. He plays a very similar role to Mitchell, where he can obviously get him in and under. Mate, Lachie Neale is a massive loss. There's a quiet whisper around here that he may play. I don't think he will. He's genuine 50-50. They do get through to a grand final. But mate, it might be McCluggage. I don't know.
That was my thought. He played quite well. He played really well against Gold Coast. Like, he was just, you could just tell he oozed that class and that experience, and that he had that extra weight probably because of the absence of Neale. But he really stood up, and I think he's, out of all the players, and I think Ashcroft may give us some trouble, but I think McCluggage is the one that's just going to be that workhorse for him. That's going to be able to get everything done for him when we need to. Just quickly, I just want to move on. I really want to get your thoughts on Hawthorn and Geelong prelim while I've got you on, because it's probably the first time that I've seen Collingwood in a prelim final where we're not the biggest prelim final. We're not the main drawing card. The main drawing card this weekend is Geelong and Hawthorn, and to be fair, rightly so. I mean, if we were playing against another Victorian side, whether it would have been like, a Carlton or, a Western Bulldogs or someone like that, even if we were to play against Geelong, really, I think then we'd be the main drawing card. But this one here looks a real tasty treat. And funnily enough, it's Easter weekend 2.0. The two blockbuster clashes are playing in the prelim. What do you think about that prelim?
Well, I'm going to go out on record here and say whoever wins Saturday night, Collingwood Brisbane, there's your premier. I'm going to make that call right now. I think, and I've got a couple of reasons for that. Brisbane are good enough to get through us on Saturday. They've had a massive 2 months. They deserve to go into that grand final next week and probably deserve to win it. Hawthorn have obviously had a pretty tough fortnight on the road. They were phenomenal against Adelaide, absolutely phenomenal. I did not pick that at all. I thought it might have been a tight-knit contest, but just in the key moments, once they obviously got on top early doors there. Geelong, for me, we spoke about this the other week, they haven't really been tested. They obviously got a bit of a challenge from Brisbane. Brisbane sort of took the foot off the gas after half time, and Geelong ran away with it. They've only really been challenged by Sydney, Geelong, and also St Kilda down at the Cattery there. So
that was a long time ago.
Absolutely, and they've had that real soft draw coming home. So
yeah,
do you go the tried and tested hard method team of Hawthorn who've had the hard draw coming into the finals, and obviously the match hard fit coming in, albeit being on the road, or do you go the softer option of Geelong? It'll be very, very interesting to see how this week's rest goes for Geelong. I'm expecting to be a cracking game. I can't pick a winner. I
can't either.
Damn do you do, damn do you don't. But I tell you what, I really hope, for argument's sake, and I said this on a radio interview I did up here this morning, and no disrespect to the Brisbane Lions, but Melbourne will absolutely buzz if they get an All-Victorian Grand Final next week. It'll be the first time since 2011 that we've had an All-Victorian Grand Final at the MCG. Coincidentally, it was Collingwood and Geelong. But it just goes to show the strength of the national game. If you've got interstate sides that have been there for the last, well, apart from the COVID years, but every year since 2012, we almost had a Collingwood Carlton Grand Final in 2023, which they would have fucking torn them apart. Seriously,
man.
They would have
just on that too. Just on that. I mean, I've said this on previous episodes and stuff too, and I know it's got no reflection on sort of what's happening now, but I reckon 10 minutes into that first quarter, when Carlton were pretty much going for their fourth or fifth goal in a row, I was like, you know that meme from The Office where the guy's pacing up and down? He's like, it's happening. It's actually like that was literally me. I was making something in the kitchen and I started shaking, and me and my old man are texting each other. And we're like, oh God, here it is. It's actually going to happen. But I was a bit relieved when Brisbane won, only for the sake of, I think the nerves would have killed me. The anxiety going into the game would have absolutely destroyed me if that was the case, playing against Carlton. But I mean, even then, to Brisbane's credit, they were able to fight back. They do have a bit of dog in them, Brisbane, and I'm really interested to see just the general matchups around the ground that they're going to have up against us, because apart from the midfield and then Harris Andrews down back, I think we've got them covered everywhere. I think the midfield's a 50-50 battle, realistically, and that's me trying to be as non-biased as possible. Harris Andrews is always a threat down back. The rest of the ground, I think we've got it covered. I genuinely agree with it. Yeah, because I mean, you look at their defense, right? Harris Andrews, but then you look at our forward line. Our forward line is, actually, just to get on that too, just to stop that part of the combo. Mychek. If Mychek's not fit, do we bring in McStay and literally sit him in the goal square, or is Checkers going to come straight out for Hill?
Oh, you'd have to go Checkers, mate. You'd have to go McStay. You'd have to go lot for lot. Like I said, you got Harris Andrews down back. So the other option is you look at the speed option of Hill and Elliott, chucking McCreary in the mix there as well. We go from there. Just a quick point I wanted to make, just going back to that prelim, which will allude to obviously my second point here, and I won't name the player, but there was a Brisbane Lions player I spoke to a few weeks after the grand final in 2023, and for those of you who've been at the Gabba, the Lions run out at I think it's the western end of the ground, and there were 7 sets. Ground holes, I think 40,000. There were 17,000 Carlton fans there, and said player said to me they were intimidated when they ran out in the ground because they could see the amount of Carlton supporters above the banner. And in a venue of 38,000, and let's say half of them are Carlton supporters, what do you reckon the crowd split's going to be on Saturday night?
Oh, look, I think
35 or?
Oh yeah, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be like it was in 2023 with GWS. I think if we had to play Gold Coast, I think it's fair to say it would have been the same. But you got to understand it. And even in the grand final, I know more corporate tickets go out for the grand final, but there is a huge, huge contingency of Brisbane supporters in Melbourne. They've obviously got their Fitzroy-based supporters that obviously stay with the club and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be. I think we're going to get close to 95 because we'll turn up regardless. And I do think it's going to be – I'd be very surprised if it was anything under 70-30. If it was anything under –
Can you imagine the Brisbane Lions running out to 70,000 mad Collingwood supporters and you and I will be there? They talk about intimidation, 17,000 Carlton supporters. Imagine it's 700,000 pretty much, 70. We make a lot more noise than Carlton. But yeah, that roar when Collingwood run out on Saturday night, and the obviously the chorus of boos that Brisbane will get, or the hoots or whatever we're going to give them, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. But strap yourself in, mate. We're in for one hell of a 24-hour period down there. And it's going
to be pretty epic. Before I let you go, there was a comment here. I am skimming through the comments as we go, and I'll get to them before the next guest jumps on. But I did want to touch on this one with you because I haven't really paid a lot of attention to it until probably today when There was that much wind in Melbourne. I was filming my Predictor 23, which is going to drop on YouTube tomorrow, and I swear all you could hear was just in the background because it was so windy. The forecast worries me. This is from RJ. The forecast worries me a little. I'm just not sure if the wet will suit us. It is going to rain on Saturday, so it is going to be wet weather football. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this to your attention is because in Brisbane, it's always quite mild. It's always quite humid and stuff. So the ball gets fairly dewy and stuff, and it's a very fast bounced ground. What are your thoughts on the weather? Is it going to impact any side? Is it going to favour any side in particular?
I think we're an extremely good wet weather side. You go back and have a look at recent history of when we've played in wet weather. You only got to go back to Anzac Day this year. The wet weather doesn't phase us. We're one of those sides that likes to get in and under when it does get tough. If that's case, then obviously you'd have to look at some selection or some be very interested with selections there. But the weather doesn't phase us. I think if it rains, mate, it definitely plays in our favour, as opposed to obviously having a sticky ball up here or a wet ball due to humidity or dew or stuff like that. So, yeah, mate, if it rains on Saturday night, that does not phase me at all. We're a pretty good wet weather side over the years, and obviously would tighten the contest up a lot. But
I'll bring you one game further. I'll bring you one game further than Anzac Day, closer to where we are now. There was about 3 or 4 weeks after. It was the end of May. We played against Adelaide at the MCG. I think we ended up winning by, 9-10 points or something? We ended up beating them by.
Yeah, was it that one as well?
And that game rained. And it was cold. It was miserable. And I was sort of wrapped because I took off to Europe literally a few days later. But the weather was shocking down here. And I thought we were tested by Adelaide then, and they were starting to come good, and they were playing really good footy at the time of the season when, they were starting to make their charge, and they were very competitive, and they actually hit the front too after we were up by 20 points. Something it actually reminded me like of a bit of a wet version of the Geelong game when we got up by 20 points and then they came back and stuff. But we're able to hold on, hit the front, and go. And I feel as if it's going to be a very similar game to that. I don't know if we're going to blow them out the water, but I do think that I'm pretty confident going into this game. I'm about the same level of confidence as I was going into the Adelaide qualifying final. I'd already be on Ticketek now, getting ready for grand final tickets if we're playing against Gold Coast, but we're not in that position. But I do think that we're quite comfortable playing at the G against Brisbane in a prelim final. I just find it fascinating that this is just another chapter to the big story against Brisbane. I mean, you can go back and you look at the Victoria Park last game, the 2 losing grand finals, the 0-3 qualifying final win, which is not spoken about that much. The fact that we beat Brisbane, 3 weeks before they slapped us in a granny. So we're obviously quite competitive then. And then moving forward, obviously the grand final, and there's been some other classics, Easter Thursday classics within that too. And we get to play them in a prelim, where we haven't played them in a prelim, I don't think, ever really. So it's going to be quite interesting. Any final words before Saturday?
Funny thing is, a little bit of food for thought here for everyone that's listening tonight. And a mate of mine said this to me on Saturday. Out of all the 6 finals that have been played this year, the side that has won every game in the finals lost the corresponding game leading into that team they played. So on paper, we obviously lost to Brisbane last start. We lost to Hawthorn last start. We lost to Geelong last start. So, mate, Cup 17 is literally less than 2 weeks away for us based on that theory.
And Hawthorn lost to Geelong. So it'd be interesting. Imagine, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself here and I shouldn't, but we're supporters and this is our job. We do get ahead of ourselves. The players and coaching staff don't. They literally take it 1 week at a time, so we can rely on them to be confident. But let's just look ahead in the hypothetical situation that we were to play against Brisbane. To win against Brisbane. Who would you want in the granny? Who would you prefer in the granny? Because the romantic side of it all for me says Geelong. And that's the only reason why is that we beat Brisbane in the last grand final that we played. So that's the 0-2, 0-3 losses that are gone, that are out of our memory banks, and then we can get revenge for 11. So it just means West Coast have got to come up fairly soon. But I'm romantically, I would like to face Geelong and win, but I would fancy our chances better against the Hawthorn.
Yeah, mate, interesting question. You have a look at the two games we played against Hawthorn. It's the first game where we absolutely pulled their pants down is probably our game in the home and away season that we played all year. And I still think that the game against Adelaide the other week was by far the best game that we played. Geelong, Crispy kicks that goal, we win the game. So neither side doesn't really faze me. I think obviously Geelong have been, arguably the best side all year, albeit with a soft draw, and they finished second. They've deserved to finish second. But, I just, like I said, they haven't really been tested over the last 2 months. That, if I was a Geelong supporter, I'd be seriously concerned. And I would be concerned going to Friday night because we saw what Hawthorn have done the last 2 weeks, especially on Friday night. The last game against Hawthorn, obviously, how we went down in the first minute, that completely rattled us as a group. So if, the 50-50 balls and the 50-50 calls and the umpires go away, I think we've got Hawthorn covered. So, mate, like I said, I'm going to go Friday night. I'm really excited to just sit there and watch that. It's going to be a fantastic atmosphere at the MCG. And they can sit there on Saturday and await the winner of, obviously, us versus Brisbane. And, mate, as long as we win Saturday night, I don't care who we play.
Yeah, no, same. I just want to get there first, and then we can worry about everything because it's going to be a massive week.
We'll have this conversation this time next week.
I hope so. We'll revisit this. What I'll do is I'll snippet this part out if we win, and I'll put it, and then we'll get you on, and then be like, bang, there we go, we're here. So hopefully, my future self is watching this next week, and we're in a good spot. Thank you so much for coming on. Just before I let you go, do you want to give a shout out to any of the viewing spots in Queensland? So if there are any viewers up there in Queensland or in Brisbane or the Gold Coast, where can they go to watch the game with other Pies fans?
So we've got the official venue for the Queensland Supporters Group is the Southport Sharks, Mackenzie Sports Bar. We're expecting a huge crowd there on Saturday. Just while I got here, the Southport Sharks are into the VFL Grand Final. So
I did say that, yes.
They had a very, very tight-knit win against Frankston to the tune of 90 points on Saturday. So they'll take on Footscray. So I'll be looking to get out to Icon Park on Saturday. So best of luck to Matty Primus and the boys. Southport Sharks, the Collingwood Football Club and our group have got a really good partnership with the Sharks. So Mackenzie Sports Bar is there. All and welcome and sundry on the Gold Coast. Free entry to get in there as well. There'll be food platters available, so it's a great atmosphere. My mate Dave's going to be hosting that one, so he'll be decking the pub out. They've got the same colours as the Magpies. Brisbane nice. RG's at the Mirror Room at RG's in the Valley, so Tanya Wilson will be hosting that watch party. So if you're in Brisbane or either side of the river, make sure you get along there. Sunshine Coast, we did have the dock at Mooloolaba. Unfortunately, we've now been bumped, so I am looking for a venue. So we're looking at the Sands Hotel or maybe the Kiwana Surf Club. But if you go to the official Collingwood Sports Group page for Queensland, join that. Keep an eye on our Instagram, our Twitter. Everything will be on there. And if anyone wants to come to Pink Lemonade on Saturday, I'll be hosting the pre-game function there for us. So we've got the loft up.
Here we go. Tempting.
You were with me last year for SP400s, and that went absolutely off. So from 2 o'clock on Saturday, upstairs in the loft there at Pink Lemonade. Bring on the weekend, mate. I can't wait to get this bag behind me packed. I don't know whether you can see that bag, but that's my...
Oh, yeah, don't worry. We've seen it in all the posts. We've seen all that bag travel the country.
I'll be getting that filled to come back to Melbourne and can't wait to get back.
Done. No worries. Matty, thank you so much. I'll share the stuff on Instagram as well. So if anybody who's got us on Instagram, I'll get all that sorted out too, so people know where to go if they're up there in Queensland. And I will definitely see you on Saturday. Fly safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And we'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in.
You can't be good. Be good at it. Go Pies.
That's it. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, brother. See you.
All right. That's awesome. First of all, I've got to quickly give a shout out here because Ben Zero has just gifted a black and white membership out to the channel. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Love talking to Matty on the channel. For those of you who don't know, they're also the player sponsor for Dan Houston as well. So I do appreciate him coming on. Just quickly scroll through the comments and then we'll get Sean on really quickly just to see if there's anything happening here. So this one here from RJ as well. I was there Anzac Day and we were bombing it in a lot. I think that's more or less because of the Anzac Day, like it was pissing down rain. It was just one of those miserable days. The wind was swirling. Stephanus has said either one. in the grand final. Let's just get there first because we've got a pretty big test. I think. I mean, I don't think I'm nervous for this prelim final against Brisbane. I mean, I was nervous going into the grand final. I was shitting bricks. Let's not lie. But I think in this game, I'm really confident with the style of football that we're playing. If we had have like just scraped over the line against Adelaide, then maybe I'd be a little bit more hesitant about this game. But I think it's more just not so much nerves, just feeling anxious and stuff, wanting the game to hurry up and come so we can see obviously what we've got in store for Brisbane. Now, I am going to bring in the man who just consistently gives us just fucking good content, and that is Ultimate Greatness. Sean, how are you, mate?
Hey guys, how was everyone?
I think everyone's good. The chat's peaking at the moment. We've got close to 50 people on, so it's doing pretty good at the moment, mate. How's things?
Yeah, no, things are pretty good at the moment. I was trying to get that question on because I had a massive blank on that because there's an SA kid or a player playing in the sample at the moment. I think it was like Lewis something or someone Lewis,
Yeah, okay.
like a big like inside mid. He's definitely going to be drafted this year. One of those like I think he's mature age as well. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Just looks like one of those guys that, Geelong will pick up and will be a 250 game superstar. So if we can get one over them, that would be good. Um,
I do have a question for you before we dive into anything prelim related, and
yeah,
there's been a fair bit of noise, obviously, in regards to the trade spectrum, not just for Collingwood, but pretty much for the entire league. Obviously,
yeah,
Zach Merritt has headlined that. It's been publicly said that his management has approached Collingwood. We haven't approached them; they've approached us. I personally don't think we're going to have enough leverage to get him to us without having the access to future drafts at the moment. That's
yeah,
just it. I don't think it's a necessity, to be honest, to get him. I think
yeah,
we've got players, Ned Long, we still got to give Harry Demetia a go. So there is a fair bit of stocks underneath us that we still
yeah,
have on our side that we can rely on. Now, I'm not saying they're better than Zach Merritt, but without any draft capital, we sort of don't have that leverage to obviously push down that path. There has been obviously talk today, slight whispers coming from Tom Morris. And now Tom Morris is usually on the ball when it comes to rumours and stuff like that come out. He was on the ball with the Jack Silvani stuff with St Kilda. Christian Petrarca. Now, it would have been maybe 10 months ago, we were sitting here talking about Petrarca before the season started. Before preseason, he wanted to leave. It didn't happen. Potentially now Melbourne are thinking about, from what's been said, he's been there. The two parties are more open to a trade being done. Obviously, Petrarca's a year older now. He had a fairly okay season. He wasn't crap. He wasn't overly amazing or anything like that. I think if he polls well on the Brownlow for the games that Melbourne did win, then obviously his stocks might go up a little bit. Do you think it's possible that we can get someone like him over to Collingwood? And just for people in the chat, before you answer that, I know we've got a prelim final. I know we've got, things, other big fish right now to focus on. But I can guarantee you the club is keeping one eye on that as well as one eye on what's happening on Saturday. So what are your thoughts about Petrarca at Collingwood?
Well, yeah. I mean, just to quickly touch on that, though. I mean, obviously, there's so many cogs in the wheel that happen in the AFL environment, right? So, if you don't have the skill of chewing gum and then like having a walk at the same time, like you're just not gonna be any good in this league. So let's just make that clear. Um, in terms of a trade, we sort of got to look at the history in terms of what players have gone around. Normally, 29 is the benchmark of a first round pick and a second round pick if they are established players. So Houston went for a first and second. It's very rare. I think I can only think of two players off the top of my head, which is Beams and Gibbs that went for two first round picks. And that's only because Brisbane knew that we wanted being pretty bad, and Eddie wasn't going to budge on it. So
Mm.
Brisbane knew that they could basically screw us over, and Gibbs had Salvani as like the list manager, and Salvani was being a bit of a prick when it come to the trade period as well. Um, so outside of those exceptions to the rule, he should be, it should be pretty viable to get him for a first and second round pick. And,
If
and I
if
think and I think 30 is the new 29 anyway, given that
yeah,
Pendle's going to like 37.
yeah, I mean, I still think Petrarca's got at least 4 to 5 years of football left in him, decent football left in him. I
Yeah.
don't think he's going to be, in the next 2 years, taper off into the abyss and you're not going to see him ever again. The guy's a Norm Smith medalist. He's a premiership winner, and he's played in, a pretty formidable midfield. And I think the problem with Melbourne's side of things is that they've pretty much stuck with the same midfield that they had in 2021. There's been no changes. There's been no adaptation where other clubs have. They've had younger players come in and, older players come out and swap around. Melbourne sort of haven't done that. They've sort of really stuck to the Gawn, Petrarca, Clary and Viney sort of structure the whole time, albeit some games here and there they have players come in and come out, but that's been their core since 2021. And I think it's time for him to have a change. I'd love him to come to us. The romantic side of it says he comes to us as being a massive Collingwood supporter, from a kid. So there's always that. If we were though to move into the player spectrum and potentially trade off a player, you'd obviously need to trade off a contracted player to Melbourne. Is there anyone? And I'm really bullish on trading away premiership players. I don't think that's like for our point of view. I know it's contradicting for Melbourne's point of view, but from a Collingwood point of view, I'm very sort of like, unless you're dropping 3 or 4 first rounders, you don't touch a premiership player. If, for example, though, Checkers was to go to North Melbourne and take that contract offer, because North Melbourne are going to offer him a fair bit, we could potentially get a compensation pick. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a top 10 pick, but we could get a top 15, top 20 pick depending on how much they're offering him. We could potentially bundle that to Melbourne as well, with maybe even a player to lure him over. But I'm guessing, and this is just me thinking outside the box, what would your thoughts be on using that compensation pick if Checkers was to go to try and attract someone like a Petrarca to Collingwood?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, there's a few cogs in the wheel with that. I believe if you're unrestricted, which I believe Checkers is, I don't think the compensation is as strong. I could be wrong on that though.
Mm-hmm.
And normally, I think out of contract players when they do, unrestricted free agents when they go to another club, I believe I don't think you get anything more than the late second. Maybe early third. So, I'm trying to use my brain to try and get like an estimate because, I wouldn't think it's. If we get anything inside 30, you taking it and like having a bit of a run there. So, I don't think it's going to be anything that's like decent, but it's definitely going to be maybe a sweetener that you give to maybe a Melbourne. Because if it's hypothetically, let's just say it's an early third round pick, you throw in another early third round pick, that's basically an equivalent of like those two picks together, you can probably get like a late second, mid second. That could be, a bit of a trade package along with maybe a second round pick. I would even open up the idea to even trade our first round pick for 2027. Just because you have those NGA kids coming through, and
Yeah.
obviously it's a massive if. With those kids, if we see them, have a bit of a year that we've had with McCarthy, McGuan, Saxena, and all these kids, and you might get one that's like a late first, and the others are pretty much third round picks. We might be able to, trade off the late first round pick and potentially, go from there. So there's a lot of sort of, forward thinking that has to be done with that. Because you would think that Melbourne would take, hopefully in our case, a late first round pick, albeit it would be from season 2027.
Yeah.
That's probably
If we had to get rid of our first round pick for the next draft, obviously this one we've given up for Houston, but the in the following one to get Petrarca in, I would be in no. I wouldn't hesitate doing that at all to get him in there just to strengthen our stocks up, because you're going to have players like a Pendles and Sidebottom that, are only going to probably be there for another year. So you got to have that transition in, because you can have a midfield of, Dacos, you can have a midfield of DeGoey, you can have a midfield of Petrarca. I mean, that's with Darcy Cameron rucking. I mean, that's just godly midfield to throw Petrarca in there. But yeah, I don't know. I was just about to say the whole Ben King thing, and we've got a comment here. It says, I did hear mid-year the club was keen on luring Ben King at the end of next year, which would be my preference. I reckon certainly wouldn't turn down track, though. He's a weapon. I looked at Ben King. I'd love to get your opinion on this. I looked at Ben King in that game against Brisbane, and apart from the first quarter, I really don't think he did anything too lively. I know he's their all-time goal scorer now, a leading goal scorer, but he doesn't really play up the ground much, do you think? He's more just like a goal square sort of forward, not like a Charlie Curnow who runs forward and, works the arc just like Jeremy Cameron does, whereas Ben King just sort of stays in the goal square. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, even to just like touch on as well too, I mean, that is probably a position of need that we probably need to attack. Like, I mean, even with the Jack Bullers and stuff, I mean, he's currently out of contract and stuff. Like, he'd be one, because I've been screaming off the rooftops, we need a full forward.
Yeah.
The centre half forwards that we currently have, they're centre half forwards. Like, even like a McSay, even though we've tried to play him as a full forward, but it's one of those things where I'm of the opinion, if you have a player and you're willing to back in that player, try to, even if you're like a list manager or like whoever, your job should be making that player who is good to make their job as easy as possible. Like, I've even had the opinion with Curnow. Like, I feel like if you're able to give Curnow a situation where he's basically the third tall every week, that whole notion of him, not necessarily being overrated, but the notion of how he sort of beats up on the weaker teams, that narrative will go away, because the defenders that he then necessarily plays on in the in the bottom, I don't know, let's just say the eight sides. If you make him the third tall, then he's pretty much playing on the same defender he would, equivalent, once he gets to finals and he's playing a top 8 side. So it's not necessarily about it's not necessarily about getting Curnow better, but it's like, find a way to make it easy for him to like perform. And I'll stay away from Carlton now, because probably shouldn't have done that. But
No, I know what you're saying, and you can use it as a perfect example with other forwards that you want to try and get into your side 100%. But let's just
even Checkers. I probably should have gone with Checkers, because he's as much as I can sit here and be so appreciative of Checkers as I have been for years upon years and stuff. But I mean, even that's been one. Before mixed day, that was something I was banging down the door on. Is just, can we just get some support for Checkers? So, I mean, a full forward would be fantastic to go out and get like a traditional full forward. And as I said, I think Jack Buller is pretty much perfect in the sense where he's cheap. We should be able to get him. I don't think that there's much sort of, or there shouldn't be much like resistance from his end, because if we go, yep, you're basically like our like next man up, you perform, you basically the side. He should get his opportunities. And then I think it's just getting a key back and then an inside mid. So I mean, I think I even said this to you privately as well. If we can get Buller, Petrarca, and Jacob Blythe from Richmond, I mean, that's basically a perfect trade period.
That'd be good inclusions there, because you're filling the holes. You're filling the holes, especially down back. which is what we wanted Silvani to do. If we were to get Silvani, he would have fit that sort of style quite well. Moving on to the Brisbane Prelim Final. The matchups, and I was talking to Matt about it before, the matchups that we have against them, I feel as if we are better than them all around the ground. I think our midfield is fairly even. Down back, obviously, they've got Harris Andrews, who always gives us trouble regardless of anything. But I think we match up quite well against them. What were your thoughts now moving into this game?
Yeah, I mean, one probably concern I do have is that I hope we don't just go back to old habits and trying to kick the ball in long and just like, having that bomb kick in. Because I feel like if we do that, that's just Harris is going to have a field day, and he'll probably be best on ground if we do that. So but then again, I mean, we have the players. Pennebury can do it. Lipinski can do it. I feel like DeGoey's like disposal by foot. I feel like he's a very underrated kick by foot. So you've got him in the side. We just need to be like hitting up our targets rather than playing the way of, because as I said, we don't have that traditional full forward. So if we can have our guys lead up with the footy, hit the targets like as we're going inside forward 50, even take a couple of marks 50, 55 out. We know Houston can kick a decent goal.
Yeah,
Maynard we know has a decent boot. Just we don't have to play harder. We just have to play smarter. So if we can essentially see the cards that Brisbane have, just try to find a way to make our cards, interact their cards just as much as we can. And then
100%.
we should.
Do you reckon we'll win in a nutshell? Do you reckon we've got this game, or do you reckon it's going to be? Because I think if we had played against Gold Coast, then as I said to Matt before, I'd be on Ticketek now, refreshing, getting ready for my ticket. But I just feel as if they ran over Gold Coast pretty quickly, and it didn't work in our favour because they didn't really belt the crap out of each other. So, are you expecting a win for this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident. But in saying that, like, it's certainly no lock. I mean, that's obvious, because I mean, going into the Adelaide game, I pretty much went into it being like, if we had lost that Adelaide game, like my world would have been flipped upside down, because we literally not like had to pull over, but like because Adelaide are a good side when they're on and stuff, but you just see what we provided, what Adelaide provided, and the value that we brought. I just knew that at our best, Adelaide weren't going to come close, and obviously that's exactly what we saw. Brisbane's a bit sort of obviously different because they've got finals experience. We know that's treated like gold in the final series. So it's like we're certainly not going to have an easier time than we did against like the Crows and stuff. But in saying, I am very confident, but I'm not.
I know what you're trying to say. I'm confident too, but I'm not saying I'm not planning my week next week, if that makes sense. Like I'm not sitting there organizing. I'm doing this. Like, for example, I haven't organized any of my social media stuff for next week. I haven't done anything. I've got some ideas, but I'm not setting things up or anything like that because I'm not sold on it. If we played against Gold Coast, maybe, but I'm not sitting there sold on it. I'm confident, and I think it was like going into the Adelaide game, really confident going into the Adelaide game, but obviously nothing's a certainty. It's finals football. Before I let you go, there is one I really do want. Oh, there you go. Chris has said stay humble, and I'm trying to. I've kept the lid on pretty much all season.
Supporters, right?
I've kept the lid on as much as I could all season, and the lid is still firmly on. I use an analogy.
Yeah.
I think it was during the season when we smacked Carlton. Like everyone's like, "Oh, lid's off." I said, "Look, I've gone into the fridge. I've got last night's leftovers. I've taken the lid off. I've given it a bit of a smell. It smells nice. I'll close the lid. I'll have it after. The after is almost here. It's not after just yet. So I'm trying my hardest to not go crazy. Geelong and Hawthorn. Tell me, pick a winner. can you pick a winner? Because this game I find is virtually impossible. And I know a whole bunch of Geelong supporters that are just shitting bricks with this game. And I think Hawthorn, in my opinion, is the best team to ever finish 8th, the way they're playing football at the moment. Who have you got for this game?
It's actually kind of funny because as much as I've been trying to downplay the whole like Collingwood in the grand final, I've had some chats with a few friends of mine and stuff, and I've kind of like set up a few like sort of watch parties if Hawthorn get through. So if we get a Collingwood Hawthorn grand final, I've got a few places to be to watch the footy.
Yeah,
So
good.
that
Nice.
that would be nice. Not that that really matters too much, but yeah, I mean, I've said it all year. Like, just I feel like it was back in February, maybe January. It just this year just feels like a Collingwood Geelong grand final.
It's felt like that for
And
a while, hasn't it? It's actually felt like
yeah,
that for me since mid-season. Even when we were playing shit the last 7 weeks, whatever, if I knew that if we had have come close, just the vibe of, and I'm not going to say the vibe of 2011, but it was just the vibe of the way the two teams were playing. It's like, they're the two best sides in it. But I still feel as if Hawthorn are going to nip them on the weekend. I've just got this feeling that Hawthorn are going to get up.
well, I think that's just the Hawthorn nature. Like, they're not. I mean, obviously they've had a ton of success, but I think the reason why they've had that success is because they just don't give you enough space to do what you want to do. Like, they're just that nagging sort of like, just like they just, it's sort of hard to explain, but yeah, it's just pressure from them, and they just have that. We talk about culture and talk about like success. Like, Hawks have that success, and there's a reason why. Like, they have this, in a sense, DNA where they pressure and they just put themselves in positions to be successful. So yeah, it's so difficult to, you know, um, sort of say like either way. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm kind of happy with either. A part
Yeah,
of me
there is
doesn't
that
mind
element.
a
There is that
Hawthorn.
feel to it as well. Like, you look,
Yeah,
in the day, it's either, I mean, we've got to get through Brisbane, and that's an almighty challenge in itself. But if we were to get up in the chance that we were, and I'm sure Brisbane will be thinking the same thing too, it doesn't matter who you play against. It's just, in order to be the best, you've got to beat the best. And,
yeah.
for us to win a premiership this year, we've got to beat Brisbane and either one of Hawthorn or Geelong. And I think that's just going to be an almighty task. But I think if we were to do that, we would definitely and rightly deserve to be called the premiers for the season. Sean, I've got a few other people on, so I'm gonna move on. But if we are successful,
Also as well, just real quick, just the season as well, and you can agree with this or not. It's also, oh sorry, ever since Flyers come in basically and Graham Wright basically changed our like, club around. I've just noticed, yeah, sorry, since the Flyer era, we've been sort of having to right our own wrongs. In
that's a
obviously in
good call.
23,
Yeah,
that's in 23 we end up beating Brisbane. What did Brisbane do? They bet us in 01, 02. I feel like with this year
0203,
being a
0203.
Geelong,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, 02, 03, and then Geelong, you've got 2011. Then like we've had to go through certain reports. I'm not going to mention those because we'll leave that in the past. Trying to overcome those. I'm sure Hawthorn will have their turn eventually. It just sort of seems like just under this Fly era, it's been a process of healing and a process of this is not therapy, but I'm trying to think of like the right word for it, but it really just feels like a
We are.
history with a lot of like sins basically.
Yeah, you
We're
said
trying
it
to
before.
rewrite those sins. Yeah.
We're going back over past hurt ground in that direction, and things are looking like we're about to like let go of all that burden that we've carried.
Yeah.
And he's brought that energy to us, which is really good. It's a really good angle to sort of look at things, which it is therapeutic, and I think only Collingwood supporters and really, I mean, football supporters in general would be the same. I'm sure Geelong had that when Chris Scott took over. I'm sure Hawthorn had that when they won 3 in a row. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. But we'll get you back on next week, especially if we are successful against the Lions. So thank you so much for jumping on tonight. And yeah, we'll see how we go on the weekend.
Yep, fingers crossed, and
crossed.
hopefully we go off and get the win.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, all good. See ya.
All right, so there is one person I want to get on, and he's been waiting patiently, and that is Curtis Sofo Photography. What's happening, brother?
Good evening, Andreas. How are you?
Not too bad. I was rapt that you came on because I've got a whole bunch of people watching, and the numbers are going up, which is fantastic. Can you tell us when the boys are training this week? Because I know that it's going to be pretty big turnout to training this week for the Pies.
So tomorrow they're training at 9:20 to 11.
Yep.
And Thursday they're training 9:20 to 11. Friday they're training 11:15 to 12 p.m. So 11:15 in the morning to 12 p.m. That's the captain's run. So that's a quick 45-minute. That's a quick 45-minute session that they've got there. So if you are in the city or anywhere near, get down, because unfortunately or fortunately, we're in the position where it's win and progress. If not, the season's over. So it could be the last week that we get to watch the boys train, or we might actually get another week too, which is the great position that we're in. So make sure that you do. Curtis, can you give your Instagram a shout out for those that aren't following, because the content that you're putting on Instagram has been amazing. Your in-depth photos of training and stuff like that. Any Collingwood supporter would love to see it. So for those that are in the chat that don't follow you on Instagram, give us a shout out on give your Insta a shout out in the chat. Sure. So my name's Curtis Sofo Photography. So it's KURTIS SOFO Photography. So if you ever want some photos or videos to look at about Collingwood or content, give me a shout out and come and say hello to me or Andreas at training. We're here to help you and make you support the boys happy. These sessions are great to meet new people, to make new friends. Me and Andreas have been really good friends during training. And yeah, go Pies. Let's do it this week.
100%. I will see you most likely on Friday. I should be able to attend on Friday. If not, I'll definitely see you at the game on Saturday. I have put your Instagram handle up on the chat, so if anybody sees it, just copy and paste it or just screenshot it and give him a follow on Instagram. Curtis, get home safe. You're walking out at the moment. I'm surprised you haven't been blown away with the wind, but get home safe, and we'll see you on the weekend.
Much love. Go Pies.
All right, so there's a fair bit happening. We've had some people come in, so I'll just quickly go over some of the stuff in the chat now, because there was just a couple of final points I wanted to touch on before we finish up. RJ's put on this comment, and I've sort of looked at it twice now, reading it. I'd love nothing more than to beat Geelong in a grand final, but I would probably prefer to play Hawthorn. Okay, so I was going to say this to Matt before, and then I was going to say it to Sean, and I forgot because we went off and we dwindled and we spoke about all different things, which is what happens on this channel. You have an agenda to talk about something, and then you just get so sucked into your love of the football and the love of the Pies, you just waffle on about rubbish like I am now. But I understand Geelong had the easy run. I understand Geelong were flat track bullies, and they were pumping sides left, right, and centre. They got tested by Brisbane, but Brisbane were off. Hawthorn's going to be their test. The question that I've got, and I'll put it to the chat now: has the draw softened them up for the easy kills, and they're going to face a really hard opponent this week? Are they going to fold? Or has the soft draws that they've had played them into form, and they've got their structures so well now, it's almost impossible to beat them? Hippie Clown says Cats will defeat the Wheeze and Poos. I used to call them that when I was a kid. Stephanos has said here, is Guinea and Gunston still under an injury cloud? Yes, and I think you can throw Impey into that as well. He had a calf strain. Stephanos said, yeah, both had hamstring tightness. And Boz has said that Curtis's photos are amazing, and Curtis has also put here, thanks so much for the support. About to drive home. Love you, mate. Yeah, like Curtis's photos and stuff they're awesome. Like literally, he's hanging over the fence, and he's even got the players that come up to him and like pose for him and stuff like that too. So it's if you haven't already, make sure you give him a follow. Chris has got here. Do we tag Andrews now? I think if we did that, I'd love to have a forward that would just like literally stay next to him and just push him out and just like get him away from the ball. Problem that I've got though is I think it's so 2023. I think it's so predictable if that was to happen, which I don't want it to. But if we did it and it worked, I mean, which player in the forward line would be a defensive forward? I mean, who would you put on? I mean, and it's not even about putting players on Harris Andrews. He has to go to one of our players. But if you were to tag him, I mean, you're going to have either Schultz and they're going to have Schultz, Membry, McStay if he plays. I mean, you can't use Lipinski. I've got him as half forward. I don't know how you're going to do that. I think if McStay was to play, you could potentially put him on there because you probably have Cox that's playing, and Cox can help out in the ruck. So, yeah, Chuck Frampton on the hands was like, yeah, but it's too predictable, Bozza. Like that's too predictable to have thing on there. So yeah, it's interesting. This is the good part about this season for all the four sides that are playing is that they're just anything can happen. You predict something, but it can be completely different by the time the game starts. Just before I finish up, too, I said this with Matt earlier on in the stream. This is the first time that we've played a prelim and we're not the main prelim. We're not the biggest drawing card. And I think that's massive for us. I think that'll help us because even though the limelight will be on us, the Geelong Hawthorn prelim is going to be huge. So it's Easter weekend 2.0, which I think is quite, full circle that the two blockbuster Easter games are going to have in a prelim final. The only difference being it's Collingwood's home game. So yeah, I get myself nervous talking about it and stuff like that, but we've really got to. This game, unfortunately, I do think there's going to be some changes. I think McStay comes in. I think Checkers will come out if he's not anywhere near 85 to 90% fit. I think Howe will come in for Parker, and I do think Bobby Hill will come in for Steele. I know that Bozza put in the chat earlier on that Jake Nile was reporting that Bobby Hill won't play. I think he will play. I think he'll play as a sub. With that being said, we've obviously got to wait to see what's said in the presser. I don't think Fly's going to give away too much tomorrow, personal opinion, but I do have tomorrow a video dropping with my predicted 23. So that'll come on tomorrow around lunchtime, and you guys can tell me what you think there. You guys can also drop a comment. You can also call it as you see it. I do thank everybody for coming on tonight. This is a massive, massive week of football for the football club, for the supporters. And it's just we've been the best side for the majority of the season. We had our little stuff around towards the end where potentially the boys got complacent, workloads, training loads were going higher, but they've managed it well and they've got them to a really good position at the moment. And the first game against Adelaide in round 23, there were signs. The Melbourne game, we did what we needed to. That last quarter, there were signs. And it all came together. The week off, we regrouped, played a fantastic game against Adelaide over there. And then now we've got a real test. I'm excited. I'm nervous. But I think we've got it. Appreciate you all jumping in tonight. And as always, go the Pies.